Welcome back. I'm Steve Miller. I'm a math professor at Williams College, and these are the Coronavirus Math Enrichment Lectures sponsored in part by the Journal of Number Theory and the Teachers as Scholars program. So in the last part, we started dealing with quadratic equations. We talked about what they were. We talked about how to plot them. We talked about how to find a parabola. We need 3 points to find a parabola. We went through the math. We then looked at what the different A, B, and C do in terms of how the plots look. And so you can watch that lecture. Then we started trying to solve some quadratics. We started off with some easy ones. We started off with y equals x squared. We then went to ax squared or x squared plus c, and we solved both of them. We saw that this wasn't so bad. To solve x squared plus c equals 0, you bring the c over to the other side, so you have a minus c, and then you just get plus or minus with the square root. We talked about imaginary numbers. If we put an a there, it wasn't so much harder. We just subtract c again, and then we divide by a. So now we have, instead of minus c, we have minus c over a. And then we wanted to try to figure out how to do the general case with a b here. It turns out it's a little bit easier not to write the quadratic like this, but to write it as a x minus h squared plus c. And when you write it like this, it's much easier from a graphing point of view. C just shifts things vertically up and down, h shifts things left and right, and a influences just how steeply it increases. And so we subtract c from both sides as before. We divide by a, we take the square root. We decided to write with a plus or minus to just make our lives a little bit easier. It's a little bit more compact notation. Then we just add h to both sides. So we see it's very easy when there's no x term, or when we can write it as a x minus h squared plus c. So now we want to handle the most general case. How do you find where ax squared plus bx plus c equals 0? What we're going to do is we're going to do one of the greatest things you can do in mathematics. Nothing. But we're going to do nothing in a clever way. We added 0. Is b squared over 4a squared minus b squared over 4a squared 0?
Yes.
Yeah, because we add and subtract the same thing. Could we add and subtract anything we want? Yeah, as long as they're the same, sure. But only one choice will be useful. And this is going to be a useful choice. And we'll see in a moment why. And the reason is we want to make it look like a x minus h squared plus some number d.
Yeah.
And so now what we're going to do is we're going to keep these 3 terms together, and we're going to move the minus b squared over 4a squared out. When we multiply it by a, we have an a upstairs and a squared downstairs. So how many a's do we have downstairs? We had 1a upstairs, and we had a squared, I'm talking about the power of a.
So we would have 5 a's downstairs?
Nope. We have a over 4a squared. What's a over 4a squared?
A over 4a squared. What's that?
So if you had a over a squared, what's that the same as?
A. Right?
No. What is a squared divided by a?
A squared divided by a is a.
What would a cubed divided by a be?
A squared.
Right, so you would just subtract the bottom from the top because the top had a higher degree. Yeah. But now we have a divided by a squared. What's a divided by a squared?
A to the negative 1?
Yeah, a to the negative 1, or 1 over a.
Yeah. So
if we have a up top multiplying 4a squared down below, we're going to get just 4a down below. We lose one of the a's. You see how a divided by a squared is just an a down below. And if we look at this over here, we want to make this look like x plus h squared. So if we want x plus h squared, or if we expand that by 4, it's x squared plus 2hx plus h squared. We want that to equal this. So 2hx is supposed to be b over a. So that means 2h is b over a, and h squared is equal to b squared over 4a squared. Can we find an h such that this is true? Yes. If you take h to be b over 2a, then if you square it, you get b squared over 4a squared. And that's why we chose to subtract, just add subtract. That's why we chose to add 0 like this. Because now we can write it very nicely as x plus h squared. So we can write this as a times x plus b over 2a squared minus b squared over 4a plus c. Yeah. Well, could we group these two together and call that a new constant?
Yeah.
Yeah. What should we multiply c by to combine the fractions?
B squared,
So how would I combine these two fractions? What do I multiply c by?
negative 4a, and 1.
So how would I write 1? So we always want to multiply by 1.
4a over 4a.
4a over 4a. So if we multiply by 1, that's another way of doing nothing. We did nothing first by adding 0. Now we're doing nothing by multiplying by 1. And so we can get this, and we'll just put the c. You have to remember that if we're going to pull out a minus sign here, then it's going to be a minus, right?
Yeah.
Because minus times a minus is the plus. So b squared divided by 4a minus c is just b squared minus 4ac over 4a.
Yeah.
And so now, if we want to find when this equals 0, you basically know how to do this. This is just of the form ax minus h squared plus c equals 0. Now, what's playing the role of c? Negative b squared minus 4ac over 4a.
Yeah.
What's playing the role of a? A. What's playing the role of negative h? b over 2a.
Yeah.
So when the dust settles, and I strongly encourage you to try to do this, you get here are the two roots. X is negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac over 2a. And this is the celebrated quadratic formula. It gives you the solution of any quadratic.
Yep.
What do you need to know to use this? You need to know
Quadratic.
the a, the b, and the c. As long as you know those, you just substitute in. So again, anytime I give you a quadratic, all you have to do is use this formula to find the roots. Okay? So I want you to think for a moment, why did all of this work? So we'll pause the video for a split second so that you can think. All right, we're back. And the reason it worked is we know how to solve linear equations. So this is the high-level approach as to why were we able to get such a beautiful formula. We know how to solve simple equations like x squared equals 0.
Yeah.
So what we did is when we wrote it like this, if you let t be x minus h squared, so we have t squared is x minus h squared. So we have 8t squared minus b squared over 4a minus c equals 0. So we can just solve, and t squared will be b squared minus 4ac divided by 4a squared, because we divide by the a. We know how to solve this. We just take the square root, and then since t is equal to x minus h, we just add h. And so the whole reason we're able to solve the quadratic is we can essentially reduce the general case to a simple one that we know how to do. So let's do some problems now. So this formula shows us how to solve any quadratic. So let's solve the quadratic y is 3x squared minus 5x plus 7 equals 0. This is the formula to find the roots. So I'm going to pause the video now so that you can find the roots of this. So if we want to use this formula, we have to find what are a, b, and c. So a would be 3, b would be negative 5, and c would be 7. And so when we substitute in, we get the following. And then we just do some simplifications. And when the dust settles, we get 5 plus or minus the square root of negative 59 over 6. So our first example has no real roots. Well, if you look at the function, notice how we have this plus 7 over here. When x is 0, the function is 7. And here's a little bit of a plot. The lowest value looks like it's a little bit before 1. This function is always above the x-axis. It's never going to have a root. It's never going to have a place where it intersects the x-axis. So when you intersect the x-axis, we call that a 0 or a root. We're trying to find what inputs will give you f of x is 0 or equivalently y equals 0. So this does have two roots, but they're complex numbers. So let's try another one. Let's try x squared minus 5x plus 6 equals 0. So what would the roots be in this case? I'm going to pause it so you can try to find the root.
1, 2, 3, yeah.
So when we look at this, when we put in a equals 1, b equals minus 5, and c equals 6, when the dust settles after you do all the algebra, you get 5 plus or minus 1 over 2. So the plus root is going to be 5 plus 1 over 2, 6 halves, which is the same as 3. And the other one is going to be 5 minus 1 over 2, which is 4 halves, which is 2. So the answers are 3 and 2. And unlike the previous problem, this one has nice numbers, really nice numbers. And so the question is there another way to find the answers to this? It seems so nice. Do we have to use the quadratic formula? And the way I look at the quadratic formula is, it's nice to know it exists. It's nice to know that it will always work, but it can be a little bit of a pain to use. It takes a little bit of time to use. Frequently, there's a faster way to look at it. And just to show that this is reasonable, here is a plot of our function, x squared minus 5x plus 6. And you can see, here are the roots of 2 and 3. So imagine that we have two roots, r1 and r2. That's where our function hits the x-axis. So if the roots are r1 and r2, that means we can write x squared minus 5x plus 6 as x minus the first root times x minus the second. When we put in x equals r1, what is r1 minus r1?
R1 minus R1, 0.
0. So when we put in x equals r1, it vanishes. What if we put in x equals r2? What's r2 minus r2?
0.
Also 0. So expanding with FOIL, you would get x squared minus 5x plus 6, and is over here would be x squared minus r2x minus r1x plus r1 r2. So we can combine the two x terms. We have minus quantity r1 plus r2. So now, let's see what we're trying to do. We're looking for two numbers, r1 and r2. What do we want the sum to be?
0?
No. We want this polynomial to be the same as this. Is x squared the same as x squared?
Yes.
We want negative 5x to be negative r1 plus r2x. So what should r1 plus r2 equal?
Negative 5.
Well, we have a negative sign in front of it. So what should r1 plus?
5.
It should just be, it should be what? 5. And then the x terms will match. And what about r1, r2? What should that equal?
6.
6. So we want to find two numbers that sum to 5 and multiply to 6. And 2 and 3 will work. So this is part art, part math. It's, can you see a good way to do it? When you're searching for these roots, what might be a good thing to do that might help you find these roots? If you know that their product is 6, what might you want to look at?
So all the different products of 6.
Yeah, all the different things that multiply to 6. So here's a new one. Imagine I give you x squared minus 7x plus 12. So when we do the same analysis, we want the two roots to sum to 7, and we want their product to be 12. Can you give me two numbers that sum to 3 and 4? And one way to maybe try to find this is to look at a factor tree. And so if we draw the factor tree, and so a good way to find the answers is to look at all the factor trees of 12. Right, it's 4 times 3, 6 times 2, 12 times 1. And this gives us the possibility we can see, do any of them sum to 7? And you'll see very quickly, yes, 4 plus 3. So instead, now let's look at x squared plus x minus 12 equals 0. So now we have x squared plus x minus 12 is x squared minus r1 plus r2x plus r1 times r2. So what does r1 plus r2 have to equal now? So we have x squared and x squared. Is that okay?
Yes.
We have x is equal to negative r1 plus r2x. So what is r1 plus r2 equal to?
X? And negative 12? Negative 12?
No. We have matching coefficients. The coefficients of x squared in both cases are 1.
Yeah.
That's good. Let's look at the x term. What's the coefficient of the x term here?
1.
What's the coefficient of the x term here?
1.
No.
I know. R1 plus R2.
Nope, it's not r1 plus r2. It's
Negative.
negative. So what does negative r1 plus r2 have to equal?
1.
1. So r1 plus r2 has to equal
1. Negative 1.
negative 1. And then last, minus 12 is r1 plus r2. So
You
we
mean
want
R1 times R2?
r1 times r2, thank you. So we want two numbers that add to negative 1 and multiply to negative 12. And if we look at the factor tree, can you give me two numbers that add to negative 1 and multiply to negative 12?
Negative 4, negative, and 3.
So negative 4 and positive 3. So we found the roots. Isn't this faster than the quadratic formula?
Yeah.
It's faster, but not every quadratic is going to have a nice solution like this. And you have to find the nice ways to factor. So as the numbers become more involved, this becomes harder to do. But it's nice to know that it exists. So we're going to just end with a few facts about where all this goes. So similar to lines, if we know the two roots of a quadratic, we don't quite know it. So here is an example where we're looking at quadratics of the form a x minus r1 times x minus r2. So it looks like we chose r1 to be
3
and r2 to be
4.
and any choice of x will work. And we can see all the different parabolas that go through these 2 points as their only roots. It is kind of cool. Now, there is a formula for cubics. So here's the cubic of degree 3.
Is that the formula?
This is the formula.
That looks nice.
It looks nice. It's not something I would want to remember, but it's nice to know that it exists. We can make it a little bit nicer if we take a to be 1 and just adjust things, but it's not that much easier.
Yeah.
But if we make b to be 0, if we do this shift like we did with the quadratics, then it does become a bit simpler.
Yeah.
There is a formula for the quarter. This is just one of the 4 roots.
Oh. Okay.
And you can see that the formula is getting more and more involved.
Yeah.
There is no closed form solution for degree 5 and higher. There's no formula that will give you the roots in terms of just the coefficients of the polynomials. We saw in our calculus lectures how to use Newton's method to approximate, but unfortunately there's no closed form root. And so we're going to end with the fundamental theorem of algebra. And it states that if you have a polynomial of degree d, you have exactly d roots. So if you have a polynomial of degree 2, how many roots should you have?
2.
2. And the roots is how many zeros, how many times it hits the x-axis.
Yeah.
Sometimes the root might be a multiple root. If I give you x to the 4th minus x squared, I can pull out an x squared, and it's x squared minus 1. That's x times x. And then x squared minus 1 is just x minus 1 times x plus 1. So it has roots 0, 0, 1, negative 1. So 0 is a double root. And the amazing thing to end our story on is that all roots are complex numbers. They can be written in the form a plus ib, where a and b are real numbers, and I is the square root of minus 1. So this means that the only number we need to introduce is I. Once we introduce that to solve this polynomial, x squared plus 1 equals 0.
Yeah.
Once we introduce I, we don't need to introduce anything else to solve any polynomial.
Yep.
And that is absolutely amazing. So in our next class, we will talk about applications of quadratics, and we'll be talking about trajectories, baseballs, cannonballs, and water fountains. We hope you will join us for that. Have a great day. Be responsible, be sensible. Go Red Sox.